All right, well, I have 12 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Heather McCarty. I'm the Regional Program Manager for Region 2 for the Division of Family Resource and Youth Service Centers. I am located in Owensboro, so I oversee Owensboro Bowling Green area. So I'm in the western part of the state. And my coworker, Russell Jones, he's the Regional Program Manager for Region 9. And he is the southeastern part of Kentucky. And we have both been family resource coordinators. We've both been youth service center coordinators. And so now we are both regional program managers for the division. So thank you for having us here today. There we go. All right. And so as Frisk, we love to share quotes. It may in fact be utterly impossible to be successful without helping others to become successful as well. And our two objectives today for this training, number one is to develop opportunities to strengthen integration between Frisk centers and the schools they serve through intentional inclusion, and then also to promote Frisk Row and helping all children learn successfully and identify ways to implement the Frisk effect. And so today we are addressing Standard 5, community of care and support for students, and Standard 8, meaningful engagement of families and community. So during the presentation, if you have any questions about how we fit in those standards, or if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to come off your mute button or put it in the chat. We're happy to answer any questions at any time. Okay, how the Frisk program is structured. So number one, we were created to enhance students' abilities to transition into school, succeed in school, and transition to adult life. And this quote right here, this message on the screen, this is really embedded into the Frisk mission statement. And then number two, our focus is on non-academic barriers that impede student success. For example, social emotional learning issues, mental health, poverty, family issues, health, and things like that. Our intent is to build relationships with students, families, and communities, recognize issues that hindered success, and seek to remediate these through a brokerage of services. So we really try to work to mitigate the issues I was just telling you about with health and poverty through building those relationships. And so why does the collaboration work between KDE and CHFS? Your Frisk coordinators, they currently serve as a unique perspective within Kentucky schools. They're able to assess and evaluate needs and situations that arise through a lens that is not academic indicator driven. Not having this collaboration, we could lose that unique perspective. So a lot of times people ask us how our agency administers the Frisk grant. And so KDE provides the funding for family resource and youth service centers, but they actually give the money to the cabinet for health and family services. And then the cabinet distributes those funds to our division, and then our division gives those funds out to the school districts. And then there is a contract that is signed between the school district and the cabinet for those funds and for the Frisk coordinators. And so it's that unique perspective that the coordinators have, because they're looking at the whole child, the whole school, the whole community, and we want to really keep that unique perspective in our Kentucky schools.
So when looking at a Frisk center, the first thing to look at and to think of when you look at the centers in your school or within your district, the reason they're so different from school to school is we didn't want to make, when the founders of Frisk were established, when the KRS was written, everybody meets the same core components, but we don't want it to be a cookie cutter type, one size fits all type of program. The number one way that a center would determine its priority is by looking at a comprehensive needs assessment. So we ask them to pull all sorts of school and local community data and bring it together to make it unique to their center, to make it unique to what it is that they need, not something that is predetermined by us or predetermined by something that they want to see. It's their needs need to drive their action. Their needs need to drive the things that they do. And it's not just a survey. We don't, a lot of times, I know when you work with your centers, the people that are in your buildings, so many times we look and we see that they're all the time sending out a survey, or they're all the times talking to parents, or maybe to your staff. That's a piece of our assessment, but not the full part, but not everything. It's more than just a survey. We're asking for all of that outside information. So how does that affect school leadership? How does that affect somebody in a leadership position within the school? We need that information. Your centers, your coordinators need that information from you. They need that information, that we have information such as, test scores, state testing scores, what gap groups are falling behind, what different type, what grant scores, what do those look like for your kids that are coming in? Because as Heather was saying a minute ago, our mission is from, actually, we work with people that are in prenatal care. So from birth all the way through, and sometimes beyond graduation. So what areas, what places do our coordinators need to focus? We need that input. We need that input from principals. We need that input from counselors, from the curriculum people, from our teachers. We desperately need, and we want that information to help build a very well-rounded administration, with their admin teams, with the leadership teams, with those that are there that have this information. And we ask that they just to stay. The teachers are seeing, that the district is seeing, that the school is seeing, whomever it may be, to stay on top of those. One suggestion that we give to them is to go and look at, attend PLC meetings that are happening within the building. Go and look at those different places. One thing that we would challenge is ask your centers, ask them to see their needs assessment data sheet, which that's where we collect all this information. There's a picture of, this is just a small sample of one of our needs assessment data sheets that we ask our coordinators to look at. So as you look and see, we're getting that information from multiple sources, and we need that to help fulfill and bring out our programming and make it as best as we can to have the greatest impact on the students that are served, on the students in that building, on the community that building has. As I look at this and I think of the things that are there, we're looking for graduation rates. We're looking for, how the parents feel about helping their kids with their homework. As we've all experienced through the pandemic, as we've done these, as we went through several things, that was something I always thought, yeah, I can help my kid with his homework. It's not a big deal. I got in there, and when we started doing it, I had no earthly idea sometimes. I was like, I don't even know what this means. I don't even know what we're looking at. Luckily for my kid, my wife is a teacher, so lucky we had a teacher on hand. But that's something that's a big deal for people. That is something that people a lot of times don't think of. Oh yeah, well, my kid was young. Oh yeah, I can do that. I can do math. That's not a big deal. But the teaching why, as teachers, you all know that. How many of our parents don't understand that? That's why we look at this thing. That's why it's this whole look at what it is that we have. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather, and she's going to talk a little bit about some integration.
Yes. So we talk about this so much with our coordinators about being fully integrated and included into the school. So, and we tell them this is how you can be effective. You can be an effective FRISC by being integrated into the school. We ask them to attend staff meetings, PLC meetings. We really encourage them to either be on the leadership team, be a part of the leadership team, or present at the leadership team. We want them to be a part of that team so they can hear about the needs that Russell was referring to from their admin. We want them to be able to help you all by, putting on a math camp or a reading camp for those gap groups or those students that are needing to increase those scores. it gives them an opportunity as well to communicate not only with the principal, but other school support staff, with teachers. And we really, really encourage our coordinators to do that. We want them to ask you all, what you all need. And you all as leaders in your school building, we really depend on you to help us break the myth of Frisk, that we're not just the underwear closet, or we're not just the clothes closet. You all as leadership can help break that myth in your school, because the coordinators can do so much more, and they can help your school so much more, and the students and families. We ask that they're included on the K-Prep review, any type of testing assessment. Let them be involved in looking at the assessed needs of what you all need, and then they can create programming for that for your school. Just to keep them fully integrated is just really one of the best ways to have an effective Frisk. Also, that ongoing communication with principals. We encourage coordinators, to give a packet at each site-based meeting every month about their service summary, about their activity summary, so the site-based can see what they're doing every month. We encourage them to request quarterly sit-down meetings with the principal, specifically maybe when school's not in session during the summer or on those breaks. We want them to send out weekly emails about what's going on with the center, newsletters, anything that they can get out into the hands of students and families, teachers, staff, support staff. We encourage that communication from our coordinators. And Russell is going to give you a little bit more information about the Frisk impact reports that coordinators are required to submit each year.
Yeah, so I know there's not a whole lot of other people on here with us at this time, and that's okay. What we want to do is we want to ask you a question, and if you all are so inclined, we would ask that in the chat box, if you could tell us what is the biggest issue that you're facing in your school. Like if you could type that. And if you don't want to, we'll go through, but we were just curious as to what the biggest issues that you would face. Okay. Utility assistance. Okay. So as I look through the different things, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the impact report. And we're going to highlight some things, but impact reports are something that every center in the state, every center within the state, all have to fill out every year. They're due September 30th every year. And they choose one program that they have done, one program, one activity, one anything that they do that shows an impact. And we look at those and we bring that information in so that they can submit any kind of increase, any kind of decrease, anything that anything that they can do with data to back it up. So we have all these impact reports. Now, we use those impact reports in all kinds of different ways. We use those impact reports with legislators. We use those impact reports with just different peoples within the community. We give them to districts. We have them all over the place. And we use them in a wide variety of things. And a lot of times it is a great resource for our coordinators to be able to have access to all these impact reports across the state. Because what we do with those is we take all of those and we bind them, and they pick the top 90. The top 90 impact reports are put into what we call the impact report spotlight. Within the documentation for being part of the conference, the 2021 impact report spotlight has been added for you. So that information is in there. So you can go in and look and see all the programs that are happening across the state. Remember, these are not cookie cutter things. So a lot of times things aren't exactly able to be replicated, but you can use them. So why did we ask you what your biggest need was? We asked what your biggest need was because I can guarantee you there's somebody working on that. There's somebody across the state that is working on that exact thing. And you brought up utility assistance. That is something that our coordinators do every day. That is something they do all the time. And looking at utility assistance off the front with that one. A lot of times, what do we do with utility assistance? That's where our coordinators are great connectors of resources to connect to the community at large. It's very difficult for us as Frisk because we have to have certain parameters on things as well. Some of them have money, they have operating money that they can use outside of their salary for different things, but we set limits on utility assistance and things like that because we don't want them to just be involved in that, and it would take up so much money so quickly. We can help some with those things, but that's where those community relationships that they're able to build by going to all these community meetings, by going and making those community partnerships, those are huge. That's how we usually address utility assistance. But I'm also looking, the parenting classes and mental health are huge right now. Those are absolutely huge issues that people are dealing with because let's face it, none of us have ever lived through a pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic, the mental health issues. I spoke with a principal this week. We had spoke with him, or last week we had spoke with him, and he's a high school principal, and he was saying that it's so different that the mental health of the kids, he says, I'm putting out fires all day long. He said, that's all I'm doing. He said, it's the mental health is really weighing on our kids. And it is so true. It is so true. That is such a huge need. And I want to tell you now on behalf of Frisk, we can help you with that. That's an effect that we can make. That's a place that we can go. If you looked at our core components, coincidentally, one of our core components for our high school and middle school age kids and our combined centers is family crisis and mental health referrals. We can help with mental health. We can make those connections. So that's why when we're looking, I'm pulling up what Heather has on the screen for us now is these are some examples of some mental health things. These are some examples of some impact report things that we look at. And as I look at some of these things, who couldn't have better attendance? Our people can do that. And they can help in more than just a home visit. I know sometimes coordinators, I was a coordinator and I did lots of home visits. I did tons of home visits. But what I found a lot of times is it's more than a home visit. Increased attendance is more than a home visit. Maybe they've identified some groups with the lowest attendance, the groups of students with the lowest attendance, and they make some interventions. They make some interventions with those kids. They have some groups with those kids. They do certain things beyond just the home visit to help increase attendance. We have people that are doing that. There's attendance reports within that impact report spotlight that show dramatic increases in attendance. We look and we go through some of these others. We look and see kind of what we have with this. We have a great possibility of outcomes relating to behavior with targeted programming, behavior, mental health, all those things. We can have it with targeted programs to decrease negative behavior, to decrease those things that are with us, things like PBIS, check and connect. Those are things that work well for our coordinators, that work well for what they have. They can check. There's always somebody there to check in with that kid. I know y'all are probably familiar with Check and Connect. It's a huge thing that's worked well for a lot of coordinators. Doing character education, putting mentoring projects, programs like Y-Try, connecting people to mental health counseling. Because our coordinators, by trade, our coordinators are not counselors, but they've made so many connections. Our coordinators most of the time are very good at making connections, connecting to those mental health counselors, connecting to those places where they can send kids, they can refer people to get the help it is that they need. And finally, we look, and there's some things here, like things like homework completion, targeting for their ACT scores. something that you all are, that the few of y'all that are on the call today that's going to the meeting with us today are going to know that we've kind of adapted our needs assessment. We've adapted the data sheet that we're looking at, and we've added a question talking about what targeted groups, what subgroups are most lacking on, or most concerning on ACT scores, on their state assessment scores. What groups are there? Identify the groups. So now they can see what groups are needing help. They can see what groups are there, and they can reach out specifically to those people to help improve scores, to help improve different things by maybe using that money they have to provide tutors within the school, to do whatever, to kind of look and see what avenues we have to do to get the information that we need to get. So I'm going to turn it back over to Heather.
Thank you, Russell. That was great. And that very last bullet point, kindergarten readiness, that was always, as a coordinator, my favorite impact report, was to really look at the Brigant scores, do some programming for those kindergarten students coming in, and see the Brigant scores increase. And just to actually see yourself moving the needle with those students is just so impactful. So really quickly, our best practice to maximize the Frisk effect, we have 3 bullet points. We need supportive and positive relationship with administration. We encourage our coordinators to stay in contact with you all, to build relationships with admin. We also ask them to collaborate with school-based resources and programs. We want them to collaborate with Title I. We want them to collaborate with the special education department. We really encourage the collaboration throughout all the PTO, throughout all of your school different groups. And a lot of coordinators are used to that. They're very good at it. Like Russell was saying, they have those connections, they build relationships. And then we also ask them to collaborate with parents and community organizations. And one thing I can add about the 3rd bullet point is, in order for coordinators to build those relationships with families, with community partners, sometimes they do have to be out of the building attending those community agency meetings. That's how they're networking. That's how they're bringing more resources into your school. The more they're networking and making those relationships and explaining the needs of your school, then they're going to have those community partners ready to donate funds, to donate time to your school and your students. And then Russell's going to talk about hiring for a minute. Whenever you whenever you have a vacancy for a coordinator and you need to hire someone new.
Yes, thank you, Heather. Unfortunately, as we, when we get a good coordinator, unfortunately, they can't stay forever. Unfortunately, at some point they do leave. And it seems that we're running into that now after a little over 30 years being in existence. We're seeing people that's all they've done throughout their careers, become a Frisk. So we know that people are looking to hire, and we know things are going to happen. For us and for you, we know the key thing is just finding the right person. It's finding the person that is the best fit. Yeah, Ashland Independent. Yes. Oh yeah, we did Steel Beth. Beth is amazing. Sorry. Yes, I agree completely. She's phenomenal. She does a great job. But that's not uncommon. As we look, that's not really an uncommon thing to be losing, as Heather said in the chat. We're losing coordinators statewide. I mean, it's just happening, and it's the time. It's that time that a lot of those. Most of all the original coordinators are gone, and now we're seeing that second generation of people that started, they're starting to retire as well. So, we're seeing that, and it's so vital for us just to find the right person, to find the right people. And to help do that, we have included in the grid, we've included also what we call the DACM, which is just a bunch of different things to help you find the right person. We're just kind of looking, because a lot of times what we see is why do we have this scenario on the screen? A lot of times what happens is they just move people over. They just kind of move people around, and there are certain ways that we need to do things. There are certain ways to find the right person. And a lot of times we use our advisory council, and our advisory councils are a big piece. So we look at them and we look and see what it is that they can do and what it is that they have. And we just hope that the right fit comes for your center. We just hope that the right fit comes for what it is that you need to do. So we're going to move into, I guess, our the last little bit that we have. And again, Heather said we do like quotes. You know, Nelson Mandela's quote is such an amazing thing, and you guys know this as teachers and as educators, you guys know this. But we did want to talk to you a little bit about what was in the day, or what is in there, what is in the grid for you. We do have the DACM. We actually have the core component guidelines for an FRC and a YSC. So, and the core component guidelines for an FRC, which is an elementary school, and then a YSC, which is a high school. We have a high school, middle school age. They are a little different, but they are state mandated. And these are the components that everybody at that level has to meet. So we do have those in there, and it's just the guidelines and the things that happen with those. We have the impact report spotlight. We have an FRYSC needs assessment data sheet, which is going to give you a combined center. So you're going to get a little bit of the FRC and the YSC all in one piece. And we do have the addendum for the evaluation, for an evaluation for the coordinator. We have it also contained. So we're going to end today with a quick video from Mr. Caleb York.
Thank you, Russell. Caleb York was an elementary principal for a very long time, and now he is currently the district contact in Davis County, and he's going to share it's just about 2 minutes we wanted to end off our session with.
How to best work with their FRISCs in their building with us today.
Absolutely. One of the things that I had to learn very quickly about our FRISCs is actually understanding their role. I took for granted as a person who was a teacher inside of a building for many years and knew that there was a family resource and youth service center coordinator inside of the building. I took for granted thinking I knew what their role was. And so I had to take time out of my normal year to really dig in and understand their goal, their work, their purpose, and really what's laid out for them from the state, to understand the components that are part of their core work in each and every day, and the work that they have to put together as they put together their program plan every 2 years. I know that's difficult because we have so many other forces coming at us as principals, but really to understand how to use that great resource of our family resource centers and youth service centers to our advantage, we have to be able to step back and understand their role and understand where they're coming from. Secondly, and this is probably the next biggest step, we all know that relationships are important. We work to build relationships with kids. We work to build relationships with our parents and families. We work to build relationships with our teaching staff and our classified staff. We have to have a great working relationship with our family resource youth service center coordinators. And I mean so because they need to be a part of each and every one of our school leadership teams. That's what ensures that they can have maximum impact to your students and families. That's what ensures that they are enhancing the programs and supports that you already have inside of your schools. One of the things that I also feel like is a best practice is we have to be understanding and flexible of their role. No other role inside of our schools has the expectations, has the ability to do what they can do. And so we have to be flexible. We have to understand that their day is not the typical day for us. We arrive, we may be pulled out for a meeting as a principal. We may have to go and take care of this one thing. Our FRISCs may do their whole meeting or their whole day working in meetings with community members, supporting families outside of the school. You know, and I think I've mentioned before, but great FRISCs are not sitting at their desks. They're out working proactively to support our families and garnering community support and working on programs that will make a difference in removing barriers for our kids and our families.
Thank you all so much for attending today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for presenting.
Thank you. And yes, Philip, we can do that.
Absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Yes, we'd love to do that, Philip. Thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yep.